So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Megan Potente, and I'm co-state director of Decoding Dyslexia California. We're a proud co-sponsor of the California Reading Summit. And I'll be moderating the panel discussion this morning. So first, I'll provide some background on our amazing three panelists. We're so happy to have them join us today. Dr. Stephanie Stoller is a part-time assistant professor in the online reading science program at Mount St. Joseph University and a founding member of a national alliance for supporting reading science in higher education. As a board member for the Innovations in Education Consortium, she collaboratively plans the annual MTSS Innovations in Education Conference. Dr. Nancy Walker is with us. She is a professor of education at the University of La Verne, located in campuses in Central and Southern California, where she teaches courses in K-12 literacy. Dr. Walker is the co-author of When Textbooks Fall Short and Get the Picture, Visual Literacy in Content Area Instruction. And she has published articles in The Reading Teacher, Issues in Teacher Education, and Journal of Adolescent and Adult Literacy. Dr. Laura Reinhardt is a researcher at the Center for Dyslexia, Diverse Learners, and Social Justice at UCLA. She is a member of the UC-CSU California Collaborative for Neurodiversity and Learning and part of the Literacy Design Team for California's new teaching performance assessments at the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. I'm so excited to have you join us. I'll provide a little bit of California context now, and then we will jump into some questions. So the reality is, research shows us that more than 90% of all students could learn to read if they had access to teachers who employed scientifically based reading instruction. While we can all agree on the importance of knowledgeable, I'm so sorry, hang on. So we can all agree on the importance of knowledgeable and skilled teachers. But really, the reality is that many preparation programs are not adequately preparing our teachers. According to the National Center on Teacher Quality, referred to commonly as NCTQ, their 2023 report on teacher prep, California ranks among the worst in the nation in providing instruction in the 5 components of reading in the teacher prep programs that were reviewed. Equally disturbing is the fact that the National Center on Teacher Quality report found 41% of California teacher prep programs that it reviewed are teaching multiple techniques or approaches to reading instruction that are not only contrary to research-based practices, but can actually limit the reading progress of many students. Teacher prep in California is at a critical juncture right now. As a result of laws passed in 2021, a new California literacy teaching standards are currently being implemented by California accredited teacher prep programs. And these new standards demand major changes in the ways teachers are taught to teach reading. The standards call for knowledge in scientifically based reading instruction, as well as knowledge of dyslexia. And the reality is that the faculty at the programs may lack this knowledge base, as they may not have received training in the science of reading themselves. So Stephanie, Dr. Stoller, would you please share with us how teacher prep programs have gone about revamping their programs to align to the science of reading? Ensuring faculty understand evidence-aligned reading instruction is a really big part of this work. How have programs that you are familiar with supported the development of faculty knowledge to align with scientifically based reading instruction?
Well, thank you for, first of all, including me in this important conversation. I have had the opportunity to work with a variety of different teacher preparation programs across the country in the last year or so. And some of the things that I've seen happen in terms of knowledge building of the faculty have really come from the professors themselves at this point. It's pretty much a grassroots effort, and it's driven by individuals for the most part. There are a few state efforts, like what you're describing is starting in California, but it's been really encouraging to see people taking this on their own. And some of the practices that I've seen to be helpful to grow this knowledge base across a faculty within a school of education include engaging in professional learning together. In my state, in Ohio, the Department of Education actually made that opportunity available for their teacher prep faculty. And I had the opportunity to participate in letters training across 2 years that was provided through our Department of Education. And one of the wonderful things about that opportunity was we did it in partnership with the school districts where we place our teacher candidates in training. So that's one model that I've seen. There are other states that have made similar opportunities available. I have seen a lot of collaboration around book studies, joint learning within programs, and again, across the university and the public school where students are placed for their clinical experiences. I think that's a nice model as well. We don't actually right now have what I consider to be really good options for university faculty to do the learning and then apply that new learning to their coursework. So there are wonderful professional development options. Letters, CORE right there in California has wonderful online reading academy. The National Institute for Direct Instruction offers training. The Reading Teacher's Top 10 Tools. You can think of several, but none of them are specific and designed for university professors to apply that new learning to their coursework. So that's a need that we're looking to fill, because what we are asking people to do is not just take on new learning, but also shed their old understandings. And that's a very, very challenging thing to ask people to do. So we have to be very mindful about creating the right environments and opportunities for people to take that on. It's not a small ask.
Thank you. Nancy, the University of La Verne was the only California teacher prep program to earn an A+ on the NCTQ report. Can you share with us the changes made to La Verne's program to better prepare its students in how to teach literacy?
Sure, thanks, Megan. Our changes began in 2018. Our college created a dyslexia program to train teachers to work with children who had complex reading issues. And it was during that time, before we launched the program, that our 3 literacy faculty underwent a 1.5-year training with Nancy Cushion White and Mary Farrell, who were both experts in the field. And they provided us with a deep knowledge of Orton Gillingham and structured literacy knowledge, along with coaching us as we tutored children identified with dyslexia. So now we're in the process of seeking IMSLEC accreditation. And from here, we trained our adjunct faculty in this work as well. And as a result of this training, we realized that our pre-service teachers would benefit from structured literacy. So just like Stephanie said, it came from us as faculty, realizing there was gaps in our practice. And so while we always addressed phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, we began to integrate structured literacy knowledge into our courses as well. And in 2021, we applied and we were awarded one of the California Dyslexia grants for teacher preparation funding. And this came from Assembly Bill 128 to work on course revisions. And so with this funding, we were able to hire Stephanie Stoller to coach us in the revisions of our 2 literacy courses in our program. And I'll share links to those programs in the chat.
Great, thank you. So I'm hearing, really a grassroots happening with additional supports and from grants and evolving over time. It's really valuable to hear these experiences. I know there are a lot of prep programs that are, trying to make those changes. So Laura, California funded the UC CSU Collaborative in order to bring together top experts, and this is the mission, top experts from the University of California and the California State University to reimagine teacher education to better focus on the science of reading, with the shared goal of exponentially increasing literacy for our next generation. Can you please share with us some of the important work that the UC-CSU Collaborative is doing in helping to improve teacher education specifically for pre-service teachers?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So I'm a member of the collaborative, the UC-CSU Collaborative. It's researchers and professors from UC and CSU. And one thing we're really excited about is we've come together and created modules I think they are made for pre-service teachers, but I think they could also be useful for in-service teachers or even parents and families. I will put the link to the modules in the chat. And right now we have 3 modules out. There's an overview of dyslexia. There's one module on the neuroscience of dyslexia, more about reading in the brain. There's also one that just came out on assessment and screening. Of course, the screening run is very relevant to what's about to happen in California with mandated screening. And I think, I'm kind of biased, but I think they're just excellent modules. There's these checks for understanding, which I think could be really good for, pre-service teachers, just to make sure that they're grasping all this knowledge that we're throwing at them about dyslexia. There's lots of information about working with families, which we know is so important. And I think something that's unique is, we have these citations to research. So not only is it, best practices that we know about, but we also link to research showing that, these practices that we're promoting are evidence-based. So I encourage you to check out the modules. As I mentioned, we have 3 right now, but we have some more coming out in the next few months. There'll be one on multilingual learners, on English learners. There'll also be one on early childhood education and best practices for classroom instruction. So please bookmark that link and check back and please check out the modules. But that's something that through this collaborative, we've been able to provide these for free to anyone that has the link.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the experience of going through all the modules, and they're amazing. And one thing I love about them is how they might be used in different ways, according whether you are teaching a course. Can you speak a little bit about creative ways that they could be used in a teacher prep class?
Sure. So it could be used asynchronously if, the class isn't meeting, or, there's a week where the pre-service teachers can just do it on their own. Also, at the end of each module, there's a PowerPoint that you could download, and you could present the PowerPoint. An instructor could present the PowerPoint, or just take a couple slides and then insert them into one of the lessons. So you can kind of choose how much information you want to take from the modules and embed in your course.
Yeah, and so for the first time, I believe I mentioned that teacher prep programs will be incorporating the California Dyslexia Guidelines and dyslexia in their coursework. And the dyslexia module I found especially helpful in covering all of that content. And in fact, parents who've just learned that their child has dyslexia have asked me where they should go, and I have shared with them that resource. So I'm really excited about spreading those modules across our state to share that knowledge.
Great. And we worked really hard to link the modules to the dyslexia guidelines. So each chapter in the dyslexia guidelines has a corresponding module to it. So we're really happy about that.
Great. So let's move on and talk a little bit now about how practice in teaching reading can be incorporated into teacher prep. So, updating coursework to reflect the new literacy teaching standards is important work. But of course, it's also important that California teacher prep programs ensure that there are adequate opportunities for teacher candidates to practice all the components of reading instruction. So I'm going to put this out there for all the panelists. What are your thoughts on ways we can improve these practice opportunities?
This is a very challenging issue, right? Like this is what most folks who are on this journey would tell you is maybe their biggest challenge. So I think Nancy's going to share about the way that she and her colleagues actually took this on themselves to not just gain new content knowledge, but to actually sit across from a student and deliver these instructional approaches. And I think that's what it takes, right? Like you can't teach to others what you haven't actually experienced yourself. And so one of the opportunities that I'm aware of that I'll share with anyone who's interested is Katie Pace Miles out of the CUNY system in New York has a virtual tutoring program that she is making available for anyone to use in their teacher preparation program. So other university faculty can become trained in this structured literacy approach. They can become a tutor and deliver this instruction virtually over Zoom, one-on-one to students, or they can do it locally in their own community. And so that's a nice, flexible, already structured and set up opportunity that university faculty can plug into. I actually have had the experience where the folks at the universities are struggling to find places locally to put their teacher candidates. And in the same community, I'm hearing from school districts who are saying, we wish our local universities were on board. So I would say from the perspective of both parties, reach out to each other. If you are working in pre-K 12 school settings and you're concerned about the preparation of educators, reach out to the universities you hire from, reach out to the universities in your local area and offer to host one of their students, offer to supervise and be a mentor teacher. I think that's a wonderful way to become involved in a meaningful way in this movement towards better reading outcomes. And if you're a university professor looking for that opportunity, sometimes we look at the districts around us and we say, oh, there's really not a place where people are going to go and be able to observe and do the things that we're training them on. Well, that might be the case, but sometimes you have to build that yourself. And I've actually seen this work really well, where the pre-service teachers are trained in a good structured literacy program or approach, and they go into the local schools. They ask if there are any struggling readers. Could I work with a group of 3 in small group? And they deliver that instruction and get amazing results that then gets the attention of not just that classroom teacher, but the whole school community. And before you know it, they're all asking, well, how could we get some more of that in some of these other classrooms? So that's another approach to making this happen as well. Nancy, I know you can share about this. So,
well, I want to back you up on what you just said, because I can't emphasize just how important it is to have that field placement so that our students can practice this explicit instruction that they're learning from the faculty. At La Verne, we have 2 literacy courses, 2 semesters. So we're lucky to have 2 literacy classes. We wish we were like Ohio that have 4 literacy classes, but we have 2. And it's so difficult to find field placements in our first semester, which is our TK3 class, that our students can only watch instruction by video. So any districts out there that want our candidates, please reach out to us. We cannot find the field placements because of our teacher shortage problem. Our candidates do go out into the classrooms for the second semester, which is the upper grade placement, and we do have placements for them. But we're really struggling to find those placements in schools. And it's so critical to put into practice what, the candidates are learning in the class, whether it's tutoring, one-to-one, or small group or whole group instruction. So.
One thing I think that's relevant here is the how the RICA is being replaced with a new teacher performance assessment. And as I mentioned, I'm on that team, and we're really working hard to make sure the assessment is authentic. While the RICA was a multiple choice assessment, this new teacher performance assessment will ask teachers to upload videos of them teaching. So they're going to need opportunities to practice, and I think it's very exciting. It'll be much more authentic and helpful to the teachers. But at the same time, there are issues around scoring and, how can we make this reasonable for the teachers and for the scorers. And but I do think it's an exciting opportunity, and it provides a more authentic assessment and a place where teachers can really practice what they've learned and get feedback on it from the scorers.
Yes, I support everything that you all said, because as a former teacher myself, I recognize the absolute critical importance of having that practicum experience. It's really, really important. So, we talked a bit about how to support faculty and programs in improving literacy instructional practices, but I'd also like to spend some time talking about accountability. Teacher prep programs in California are required to go through an accreditation process. What are some ways that this accreditation review process might support improvement in teacher prep programs and compliance with literacy standards? And I'd love to hear from all of you.
Well, I can start this off with saying, just here at La Verne, we've been working for the past year on addressing these new literacy standards. And along with, we're excited about the RICA TPA revisions as well. And what it's doing is it's allowing us to have conversations across the department, deeper conversations about the need for deeper literacy practices in all of our coursework. So we're really excited about that. The faculty are starting to unpack their courses and really think about literacy across disciplines at a deeper level. We're having a lot of discussions about the role of morphology in the upper grades, and especially in our secondary literacy courses, we're really starting to take a harder look at what's happening in that coursework as well. So all of these state standards and requirements are providing a framework for us to have deeper conversations across our program. So we're really excited about it.
I wish everyone was excited as you are at La Verne. It's great to see that you've taken the initiative. You certainly are leaders in going forward and doing this. Accountability is necessary for any profession, and it's going to elevate education as a profession. But we can't just have accountability. And I think we have to be careful that the accountability doesn't get ahead of the support. We can't just tell people to change, expect them to change, hold them accountable for changing if there isn't an infrastructure and a support system for them to change. So, that's just a caution that those supports have to be built. And there are a lot of interrelated pieces here. And you're talking about humans who have been established in their careers, in their professions, some of them for a very long time. And you can't just expect people to turn on a dime. So there have to be layers of learning and support and accountability for this sort of a change to happen.
Well, I think, Stephanie, speaking for La Verne, it took us a long time to acquire this knowledge. It wasn't a 2-hour PD, and then all of a sudden we were, qualified to work with structured literacy. I mean, we underwent a year and a half of intensive training, and we're still learning. So I encourage everybody to have some gratitude as far as how much time it's going to take to do this work. So
how much time it takes and how much support and coaching it takes to make the change. That's what I've experienced from working with faculty and other programs, that, these are the front runners and the volunteers who are stepping forward, who want to make this change. These are not the folks who are being made to make the change, right? And even in that context, the amount of time that it takes, the number of revisions to courses, the trying something new, your best first attempt at making revisions to your courses and field experiences, and then learning from that. It's an iterative process that takes time to refine. And it's helpful to have an outside set of eyes on that, because everybody's invested in what they're doing. If you're a skilled professional, you've invested a lot of time and energy into the training that you're providing to those teacher candidates. And so to let go of things, to make changes, that's I don't know. I just think it's a very challenging thing to ask people to do. We should be doing it. Don't get me wrong. We should be telling people to do it. And we must also be supporting them to do it.
Yeah, I will say that, as Stephanie said, the support is so important. And that's why at the collaborative, we really hope that these modules can be a support for, instructors who aren't able to collect all this information and have a new class available right away. They can start using some of our materials first. But I think accountability is really important. And I think that these new teaching performance assessment, or the new teaching performance assessment, will be interesting to see, which universities or teacher prep programs are producing teachers that pass the assessment in really high rates, and those that don't. Although that won't be the full picture, I think it could be part of the puzzle that shows how well teacher prep programs are preparing our next generation of teachers.
One of the other pieces to be really mindful of is, who is going to be holding these programs accountable? Do you have people who are knowledgeable enough to know it when they see it, and to not just rubber stamp and pass along a program, and to see it from the program perspective, not to see it as individual courses, so that it's the experience is viewed, the training experience is viewed from the eyes of the teacher candidate, the consumer, if you will. What's the experience of that individual as they go through a training program? So who at the outside level, the state level, has the knowledge to be able to view those courses and say, yes, this is in alignment with the research, and yes, this set of learnings and experiences will adequately prepare somebody to teach reading. You have to be very careful about who's making those decisions. So.
I'm going to read a question from the chat here. So here's a big question, an important one. How do you get the provost, dean, and faculty on the same page? And who do you reach out to first start the change process?
Yeah, I think it can happen from any of those levels. I guess in my experience, it's best happened from the faculty level. I'll just tell you from our experience at Mount St. Joseph University, the increase in our enrollment is what got the attention of our provost and then our university president. That wasn't our goal, to increase our enrollment. It was a nice, happy artifact. But once we were training folks in a way that was aligned with the reading research, and those teachers were getting results, and those teachers were staying in the field, 5 years past graduation, and the
We've lost your audio, Stephanie.
Looks like you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
How far back should I go? Did you hear any of that?
Start with that thought again.
So what I've seen is that it can start top down or bottom up, either way. But the important part is for the change to happen. And in the case of Mount St. Joseph University, where I work, the change happened first at the faculty level, and it was in getting the results with our teacher candidates, those teachers being successful with their students, staying in the field for 5 years or more, getting the attention of the superintendent in the district that they were working in. All of those things resulted in our enrollment going up, which got the attention of our provost and eventually our university president. So, I think if it's going to start top down, that needs to be a conversation and probably a joint learning process with or between the administration and the faculty.
Okay, wow. So much incredible work happening in California and across the country. But so far, we have a long way to go as well. We have about 10 minutes left. So we'd love to hear from each of our panelists about your top 3 things that California should focus on in improving teacher prep. Who'd like to start?
I can go ahead and start. I think at Laverne, we're always hoping for a stronger connection between theory and practice with our district partnerships. So we're hoping for those connections. I think there's been a lot of discussion that if your program is exemplary, why can't we have waivers available for some of the assessments that the state has put into place? I mean, that's another piece of the conversation. And then maybe more alternative pathways for CBEST and CSET. So those are some of the conversations we're having in our program.
I would say adding, listening to Emily Hanford made me think, just what we teach teachers needs to be research informed. And I think, there were some patterns, and I've met teachers that have some incorrect ideas about, reading or teaching and what really the research shows. So I think making sure that the practices are research informed. Secondly, I think that quality assessments are really important and meaningful assessments as teachers go through the program. I mean, reflections are nice, but also, the opportunity to work with students and to reflect on that and to, hone your practice based on experience. And then finally, I think that mentorship is so important, and I don't really have great ideas for how to do this, but really pairing teachers with mentors that will support them in those first couple years and through the program is really important. And I think that should also be a focus.
Well, I'll say again how important I think it is to create an infrastructure for learning and change to happen in your university systems with the faculty who are teaching there. So professional learning for faculty, I would say, would be definitely a critical area of focus. Second, I would say building in time for folks to make this change, release time. So this is going to take funding. You can't do this with 1 or 2 reading courses. You can't sufficiently prepare educators to teach reading in 2 courses. I know Nancy's doing as good a job as is possible.
Barely, Stephanie. We would love to have 4 courses, but it's just too hard to stay competitive here in California.
Yeah.
So-
So from a state perspective, I would elevate that as a priority to, even from a legislative perspective, to consider that. You just can't expect people to deliver what they need to deliver with having 2 semesters of learning. And then the third area that I would elevate for focus and conversation is student outcomes. This is not some kind of academic exercise. This is about students' lives. This is about the fact that we've been failing students and their families for too long, and it doesn't have to be this way. So a focus on student outcomes, that should be front and center in every conversation about this change.
Thank you. Those are really, really important points. So much to take away from that. Nancy, could you give a little background on how California, the fact that you only have 2 classes, how is California's teacher prep structured maybe a little differently from other states?
Well, I mean, we use the standards to guide what we're doing or how we set up our classes, and then figure out what we want to do with units and align to make sure we meet the standards. The problem is most of the universities have about the same amount of coursework or number of classes for students to take. And so for us to go to 4 literacy classes would impact our ability to stay competitive with the other universities in California. So we know that's the right thing to do, because we're really, it's really a tough lift to cover the content in 2 literacy classes. And we're lucky we have 2. A lot of universities just have 1. But we have to stay competitive. We're a small private school. So.
And so staying competitive means, making the
number of units.
Number of units.
How much time it takes to complete the program, number of units that the students are going to pay for. So, and it's just so expensive for our teachers to keep on adding more reading classes and time to get the credential. We're in a teacher shortage. So I think this is all important conversations to have at the state level.
Yeah, I mean, California, do you think California should offer an undergraduate bachelor's degree in teaching as many states do?
Well, I definitely have seen this in the chat, and I think this is a very interesting conversation to pursue. So I would have to take a deeper look at it, but I can tell you just with the content that we're covering in our syllabi, it's just a challenge. So we definitely could use a lot more support to get this work done at the level where you want a first-year teacher to be really successful in the classroom. So,
yeah, lots to think about. I know I was really inspired by the idea that a lot of the positive change that's happening is grassroots. It's teachers, IHE leaders knowing that they want to do better, coming together, investing in that knowledge and in the change, and recognizing that it's not automatic. It's not a quick fix. It's going to take time, and we need to support our prep programs as they make these changes. I'm just looking at the comments here. We have about 4 minutes. If anyone would like to make a last statement about where we go from here.
Well, I'll share a couple of resources. I know this is going to go out in the communication that goes to the folks who are registered for the summit, but at the Center for Reading Science at Mount St. Joseph University, that's where we host the STARS in Higher Ed group. We are an alliance of faculty working together to make this change, and so you can join us there. And the Reading League has just launched their Compass, which is a collection of resources. There's a specific aspect to the Compass that has resources for ed prep programs. So 2 resources that I would just encourage people to check out. I'll put the link to our center in the chat.
And resources will be shared with people who register, and they will be added to the California Reading Coalition Summit webpage. So we have amazing resources among our panelists here. Thank you so much to our incredible and very passionate panelists for sharing all of your experience, knowledge, and leadership in encouraging other teacher prep programs to make the changes to align the science of reading and focusing on the outcomes for kids, because we know that is really what it's about.